I'm Anil Kumar, and now I'll discuss with you a test problem on combination and composition of functions. Given f of x equals to 2x squared minus x, g of x equals to x over 2 minus x, find each function and state its domain. The first one is f of g of x, that is composition of function. G of x followed by f. The other one is g divided by f of x. Now this is combination of function, right? So we have to divide g over f. Part 2 of this question is find x if g of f of x is equal to 1. So that is part 2. Now this is not the same composition, right? So they are two different functions. So basically this question is pretty lengthy and I have very limited space to solve this question. So I like to squeeze in most of the things in not the way I like. Anyway, let us see how it turns out. So let's begin with our functions. F of x equals to 2x squared minus x is a parabola which has no restrictions. G of x is a rational function which has a restriction. So let's write that x is not equals to 2. So g of x domain is restricted. Domain of f of x is not restricted. Find each function and state its domain. So first one, f of g of x. Domain in this case will be restricted by the domain of g of x. Since f of x domain is not restricted, so we can directly write that the domain of this function will be x belongs to real numbers but not equal to 2. Let's first find the function. So when we say f of g of x, it means f of, now g of x is x over 2 minus x, correct? That is what it means. So that means we'll substitute this value x over 2 minus x in the function. So what we will get here is 2 times x squared, that means x over 2 minus x whole square minus, instead of x again, we will write x over 2 minus x. So that is the meaning of f of g of x. Now we can simplify it. Let's expand and simplify. So we get 2 times x squared over 2 minus x whole square minus x over 2 minus x. Now we can take common denominator of 2 minus x whole square, right? And expand the numerator. So we get 2x squared, that is the first term. And in the second term, the denominator is 2 minus x, here is 2 minus x whole square. So x gets multiplied by 2 minus x, correct? So that gives us 2x squared minus 2x plus x squared divided by 2 minus x whole square. Well, we can combine them. 2x squared plus x squared is 3x squared. So this is equals to 3x squared minus 2x over 2 minus x whole square, right? You could take x common and then further simplify. Well, let us do it. So we could take x common here. In that case, what do we get? We get x 3x minus 2 divided by 2 minus x whole square, right? So that becomes f of g of x, and let me write down now the restrictions also for this function. As we said initially, the restrictions are same as that of g of x. So x belongs to real numbers, so that x is not equal to 2, right? That makes the denominator 0. So that becomes the domain of the given function. Now let's do part 2 of this question, part B, which is g divided by f. So let me write big and bold here, g divided by f of x. So we can say g of x divided by f of x. G of x is x over 2 minus x, right? And we are going to divide by 2x squared minus x. So we could write this as x over 2 minus x times 2x squared minus x. That is how we can write. We can actually simplify this by taking x common from here. So we get x common. Okay, let me write x first in the numerator here, and then x common. So we have 2 minus x, and when you take x common, you get 2x minus 1. Now x and x will cancel out. So that is how you can simplify it. So you get 1 over 2 minus x times 2x minus 1. So that is part B for us. Okay, let me write down part B here. In this case, the restrictions are what? Restrictions are that x is not equal to 1. We have to consider this x also, right? So it is x is not equal to 0, x is not equal to 2, and x is not equal to half. So there are 3 restrictions on this. You get the idea, right? Even when they cancel out, you have to include in restrictions. So what you get is g of x is divided by f of x, and it is equals to 1 over 2 minus x times 2x minus 1, where x is not equal to 0, 2 and half. So these are 3 restrictions on our function. Now let's do part B, which is find x if g of f of x is 1. So let's do this part now. G of f of x means g of f of x is 2x squared minus x. Now when I say g of f of x, I have to substitute in this function this value. So we could now get this as, so 2x squared minus x will replace x. We have 2x squared minus x divided by 2 minus 2x squared minus x. You get the idea, right? Now this particular function should be equal to 1. For that we can equate this to 1 and now calculate what is the value of x, correct? So that is what it means. Let us cross multiply and then solve. So what do we get here? So we get 2x squared minus x is equals to, when you multiply this, you get 2 minus, let me open the bracket, 2x squared plus x. Bringing all the terms to one side, we can solve this equation. So when you bring this term to this side, you get 2x squared plus 2x squared, and then we have minus x, and 2 comes this side, becomes minus 2 equals to 0. Or we get a quadratic equation here, which is 4x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. Let us see how to solve this equation. So we'll do it on the right side, which is 4x squared minus, let me rewrite, 4x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. 2 is common. So it is 2x squared minus x minus 1 equals to 0. Now the product is minus 2 and sum is minus 1. So we can actually factor this, right? So let's factor. So the two numbers will be minus 1, minus 1. So, my 2 minus 2, 1. So we could write the center term as 2x squared minus 2x plus x minus 1 equals to 0. And now we can factor this. So we can factor 2x. So we get 2x times x minus 1, and we have already x minus 1 here, right? Equals to 0. Let me push this a bit. And now, okay, we can also take it on the right side. Still we have space. Good job. So we can now, let me put 2 brackets, yeah. So we have 2 times x minus 1 is a common factor times 2x plus 1. Okay, plus 1 equals to 0. Now that gives us 2 solutions. This function can be 0 for x equals to 1, or for, we'll equate 2x plus 1 equals to 0, or for x equals to minus half. Now before we get there, we have to check the restrictions. The restrictions are that the denominator cannot be 0, right? So the first restriction is g of f of x. When it comes to the denominator, this whole term cannot be 0. So actually I should also see the restrictions here. So what I can do is I can substitute 1 and check. So if I substitute 1 here, do I get 0 in the denominator? That is what I need to check. Now if I write 2 minus 2, right, which is 0, and minus of minus 1 is plus 1, so that is not 0. If I use minus half, in that case, minus half square is 1 over 4, so that is half, and minus half, that is also not 0. So both are valid points for us. correct? So in this case, we have two solutions, and our answer is that g of f of x equals to 1 for two values. First value is x equals to minus half, and the other one is 1, right? So these are the two values for which g of f of x is 1. Now, as an exercise, what you can do is you can verify this also, right? I hope you understand and appreciate how we did this question. We actually first did composition of two functions, then we did combination of two functions, that was quotient form, dividing one by the other. Then we found the value of composite function, the x value for which the given y value could be found, right? Now, as an exercise, what you should do is you should check what is f of 1, right? So f of 1, you can plug in 1 here. When you plug in 1, you get 2 minus 1, which is 1. And if you plug 1 here, then what do you get? 1 divided by 2 minus 1. It is 1, so you get 1. So that confirms that the answer is correct. Similarly, you can substitute minus half also and check your value. So test, or I should say check result. Right. So do that part, right? I hope it helps. Thank you and all the best.